Come on. Come on. How sound works. There we go. All right. Okay, put your questions and comments down below in the comments section. We will be starting in just a minute or two. Okay, I guess we can start now while we wait for other people to show up. But yeah, I guess that's long enough. If if I seem a little out of it tonight, I apologize. I think I've got some kind of stomach bug, and I've had one for about the last, well, for a while, over a week now, I guess. It started, I think, last Tuesday, when, try as I might, I could not get to sleep all night. I was just tossing and turning until the morning when I finally just gave up and just got out of bed. And ever since then, I've had, like, no appetite at all. I don't really feel sick, but it's like I've just got like a natural appetite suppressant right now. So I must have some kind of bug. So don't have a ton of energy, but on the plus side, I think I'm losing weight, which is nice. But anyway, you don't care about that. Wrestling. That's what we're here to talk about tonight. Impact Wrestling, Week 5 of the of the World Title Series. Week 5 of this company-wide tournament to crown a new World Heavyweight Champion. On last week's scintillating episode of Impact, we got a bunch of wrestling matches with no story, with the big cliffhanger being that this week we would see a bunch of wrestling matches with no story. You know, after just 5 weeks of the World Title Series, this show has become extremely formulaic. It's pretty much the same thing every week. We get 1 or 2 roundtable interviews, which were actually not happening on the show this week, probably because they had to make room for the Jeff Hardy stuff. But normally you get like 1 or 2 brief roundtable interviews, which really don't advance anything or amount to much more than the wrestlers in the group being interviewed, telling the other wrestlers in the group why they are going to advance and the others aren't. We get a certain number of matches, some of which have pre-taped promos during them, which again were also off this week because I guess they get those from the roundtable stuff. But yeah, you get those. I'm still not a fan of those, by the way. I find them distracting. And after the matches, we'll go backstage to the wrestlers cutting what are 9 times out of 10 these bland-ass generic promos that the laziest wrestling writer on earth could crank out in their sleep. And there might be a video package thrown in there, here and there, to fill time. And that's basically the show every week. It's just not the most dynamic or compelling wrestling product they could be putting on, in my opinion. And yeah, at least this week was a little bit different because they had the Jeff Hardy thing and the roundtable stuff took the week off. I expect in week 6 it'll be back to normal. Anywho, the show begins with a match from Group Knockouts. We have Brooke versus Madison Rayne. Man, I wish they'd put Jade in this thing instead of Madison Rayne. Even if she did manage to be the winner of this group and go on to compete against the men in the tournament, is anyone really going to buy that? When you think of women who have the size and athleticism to believably compete with men, do you think Madison Rayne? Because I don't. At least Jade is athletic enough to pull that off. But whatever. Now, Brooke versus Madison. Match is fine, albeit short. Shorter than I would have liked it to be. Madison had a video package. Yeah, because Brooke. Madison had a video package before the match, so obviously she won. And also because Brooke is working with an injured hand after her match with Gail. You know what? I still think Brooke losing this match was stupid. Listen to the crowd. Brooke is over. Madison is not. And at this stage of the game, why the hell are you doing this? What the hell is the point of continuing to put over a woman you've been trying and failing to get over for years? I don't know. But now Group Knockouts is all tied up. So it's going to come down to the wire as far as who advances in this group. Though, who are we kidding? If history is any indication, it'll probably be Gail. Next, we have Rockstar Spud versus Bram from Team UK. Group UK, rather. Yeah, Group UK. So, yeah, Bram is still there. Still with the company. Yeah, the legal situation has resolved itself, so I'm fine with this. If he had been convicted, that would have been a different story. Very different story. But the way this works is you're innocent until proven guilty, and the charges against him were dropped. So as far as I'm concerned, the matter is settled, and I'm happy he's still with the company, because he's a good talent. The match is pretty typical. It's nothing amazing, but it's fine for what it is. I'm cool with Bram winning. He needed to get on the board, and you'd buy him advancing in this tournament more than you would Spud. Of course, I think we're all expecting Galloway to be the one who comes out on top in this group. Still, nice to see Bram pick up a win at least. Then we have, that's right, another World Title Series match. It's Manic versus the 90s kid Mandrews from Group X Division. Really good match here. More grounded than you'd probably expect it to be from these two, but really good stuff generally. I'm a fan of Mandrews. He seems to have all the intangibles you look for in a performer. I think if they put a little bit more work into developing his character and his gimmick, they might just have something with this guy. So, of course, then he loses, which kind of sucks. But does anyone in Group X Division really have a chance of winning this tournament and becoming the new world champion anyway? No. It just would have been nice to see Mandrews win something. Or anything. After this, they had actually a quite well-done video package with Jeff Hardy talking about his injury. It was well produced, and stuff like this helps to build up his eventual return. You know, it's nice to see them build up to something like that. They haven't always bothered. And it was one of the only things on the show that broke up any of the wrestling. So that was good. Then it's right back to wrestling. From Group Tag Team Specialists, we have Davey Richards versus Eddie Edwards in, you guessed it, a match in the World Title Series with no storyline attached to it. And I might be committing IWC sacrilege by saying this, but you know what? I didn't find this terribly compelling. What do you want me to say about it? They were best friends prior to coming out. They walked to the ring together. They had what amounted to an exhibition match. They went to a time limit draw, and they shook hands afterward, and then they were still best friends. One thing I thought was weird about this is that they never bothered to pick up the pace or go for like desperation moves or desperation pins once the time started ticking down. You know, they only had a couple of minutes left to get those points, but it didn't seem like either of them were feeling that urgency. You know, they just kind of worked normally. Like why are you doing this on a turnbuckle? You know, why are you wasting time playing to the crowd when you've got 60 seconds left on the clock? I don't know. Aside from that, the match was terrific. But wrestling quality is not this show's problem. I've seen how the sausage is made here, okay? I don't need to, I don't need to see Davey versus Eddie. I've seen Davey versus Eddie. It's great. Make it interesting. Give it a storyline-related reason to exist. And by storyline, I don't mean just throwing them in a huge tournament that lasts for weeks on end and takes up the entire show, so the show can't be about anything else. Great wrestling is appreciated, but great wrestling enhanced by interesting characters and a compelling storyline, that is what is going to draw interest. It just doesn't seem like TNA understand that right now. So then we get part 2 of the Jeff Hardy video. Again, it's very well made. You know, probably the best thing on the show. You get a sense of where Jeff is at mentally and emotionally. There's actually an attempt to focus on some character development here, even though he was probably just shooting. He actually admits that he went too far by getting physically involved in the Bound for Glory match that he refereed, which, again, is exactly why EC3's injunction worked. So on that basis alone, it gets a thumbs up. I like this part. And then it's back to wrestling. We have Kenny King versus Mahabali Shera from Group Wildcards. And with TNA doing a tour of India in the not-too-distant future, of course, Shera wins, even though the crowd was a lot more into Kenny. The match is fine. Shera is still pretty green, clearly, but he seems like he's coming along. And Kenny did a good job guiding him through the match. And I liked that Shera was more serious than usual in this match because they're approaching the end of group play and he wants to advance. So he's not out there dancing around. He's got his game face on. And that's good. That shows a basic understanding of psychology. Always a good sign. And after that, it is main event time. From Group TNA Originals, it's Bobby Roode versus Eric Young, a matchup we've seen many, many times now, which really needs the writers to find some kind of new spin on it to make it feel fresh. And there sort of was with Eric trying to get in Roode's head before the match, but considering their history, you've got to do a little more than that, especially when I have no reason to believe that any of that stuff will continue beyond this week. So there's still really not much here. It's just another match among countless others in the World Title Series. And they were clearly relying on the history between these two to sell the match, but for me, that history is exactly why you need to work harder from a creative standpoint in order to make the match fresh and interesting, because they have so much history and because we've seen them face each other so many times. But they didn't. And therefore, try as I might, I just couldn't bring myself to get that invested in this. No offense to either guy. It wasn't their fault. But this is what happens when creative gives you very little to work with. The novelty of two people just facing each other in a match is one of the first things to wear off. It's a very good match. We all knew they'd have a very good match, but that's it. And I'm sure I sound like a broken record by now, but I just think this show and this product need to be about more than just two guys having a good match. And that was Impact, with the cliffhanger being that next week we will see a bunch of people having matches, and that's it. There was nothing really bad on this show. The problem is it was pretty much the exact same show they've been putting on for the last month. There's little to no variety. Backstage segments are extremely rare. In-ring promo segments are almost non-existent right now. The whole show is just matches in a tournament week after week after week. And I really think it was a mistake to make the World Title Series so big and take so long, because if you get bored with it and want to see something else for a change, like an in-ring promo segment or a comedy bit perhaps, you're kind of out of luck. You know what was one of the most entertaining things on this show for me? When Josh and the Pope were getting on each other's nerves, when Pope wouldn't, you couldn't figure out who to swipe on that green screen. Because just for 1 minute, we had some entertaining character interaction. You know, when Pope is like looking over Josh, he's like, yeah, whatever, man. Just little stuff like that. It was actually kind of funny how they were irritating each other, and I laughed. Do more stuff like that. The wrestling is good, but if you want to include other things on the show to add a little bit of variety, that's okay. You can do that. Please do. Go ahead. People won't be mad. If they're anything like me, they might just like it and enjoy it. Okay. Hit me with your questions and comments about this week's Impact in the comments section down below. And what? What is going on? What just happened? Fuck. For fuck's sake. Really? Okay, the comment section is disabled for some reason. I don't know why. That is really strange. For crap's sake. Okay, I apologize. I don't know how that happened. God, am I gonna have to go back and try to figure out Google Plus again? Shit. All right. Well, you know what? I don't know how this happened. I'm gonna have to fiddle with this again. Just hopefully I can figure out what happened before tomorrow. Shit. All right, maybe I clicked on the wrong thing by mistake. I don't know. Anyway, that's my review of Impact. I apologize for anyone who wanted to leave comments or questions but couldn't. Something went wrong here, and I'm going to have to figure that out and fiddle with it. And I will try to get the comment section restored before tomorrow night for the Comic Show post-show, where we will be talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and The Flash and Arrow. That will be fun. And it's week 2 of Supergirl. If you want to talk about that, you can. I haven't seen the episode yet because I was not enamored with the pilot, and I haven't felt a burning urge to watch the second episode yet. I might if I have some free time. But I haven't been able to get around to it yet. Anyway, I guess that'll do it for tonight. Again, sorry about the comments section. I don't know what happened there, but I'll work on it. So those are my thoughts on Impact. Tune in tomorrow night for the Comic Show post show, and I will talk to you then. Later.